Hey there, readers and adventurers.
And welcome to Becca's Book Club Adventure. I'm Becca.
And I'm Matt.
And thanks for joining us as we escape reality
And unpack the fantastical chaos that is Crescent City. Hey there, sister. How's it going?
You know, it's been pretty fantastical this past week. How about you?
I mean, it's been okay. I'm pretty bummed that it got so cold again. I feel like we were like going into spring, and then the next thing I know, it's like 30 degrees at night, and the flowers are succumbing to frost outside, and it's just, you know.
Yeah. We had our in-laws, well, my in-laws, and I am very fortunate. I love my in-laws, and they came to celebrate Kevin's birthday, and they left us food to eat for the week.
That's like magic.
I know. I didn't even ask for it. So today I didn't have to meal prep because they brought us chili.
Woo! And that goes perfect with the temperature. Like,
yeah,
you have like magical elf in-laws, you know?
Right.
You know what else is pretty rough this past week?
What?
The first 7 chapters of Crescent City. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
more specifically, 1 through 4.
that's fair.
5, 6, 7, I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. 1 through 4, I was like, oh no, what did I sign up for?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, so chapters 1 through 7 is like part 1, and that's called The Hollow or whatever. And all I hear is all of my West Virginian relatives saying The Hollow. But it seems to me that part 1 is like completely just set up for the rest of the story. Like, yes. I'm sitting here like thinking, you totally didn't need to write any of this. You could have added this in to the rest of the story as memories and flashback and stuff. But like, I also get why SJM did it this way. I guess like the characters are more real in a way if they're not just memories.
And she had some flashbacks in there already. So like there was a lot of world building in those 7 chapters.
Oh, for sure. But it was, especially like the first 2 chapters, is super rough, man.
What was it? I think it was Thursday. I texted you that I couldn't keep my eyes open.
Yep, but you just got to, push through. I will say that after reading like chapters 5, 6, and 7, it really reminded me why I love this romantasy fantasy genre, because when you read like for example, have you ever seen the TV show Bones?
Yes.
Okay, that is based on a whole crap ton of books about a forensic anthropologist named Temperance Brennan, right? And I recently started reading those, but it's like mystery and forensics, so it's like kind of niche, right? But like this, I mean, you get some like urban teen angst. There's some police and military political stuff. And then of course you get like the fantasy and magic systems and shifters. And I mean, there's even like the beginnings of what you think is going to be some spiciness.
Right.
That doesn't materialize for, # reasons, but like it's all of the genres in one, and it's awesome.
And we get teen angst without teenagers because they're post-college. So I deeply appreciate, because when you're in that like weird 22 to 26 range, you're still like kind of trying to be a college kid and figuring it out, but also have a paycheck and are doing stuff with your life. So I like that that's kind of our age range that I suspect Bryce is in.
Yeah, that is a nice change of pace from like, I mean, I'm assuming Bryce has all the main character energy, and she's gonna like save the world or something at some point.
Obviously.
And so it is a nice change of pace that she's not 16.
There's hope for us too. Our stories could get more entertaining from here on out.
Oh, for sure, right? Until I get closer and closer to the crypt. But like, I guess we should just keep pushing through and start going through these first 7 chapters. But I guess before we do that, we definitely need to pay homage to today's sponsor.
Yes. This week's episode is brought to you by Puppy Pets. Puppy Pets for when you need therapy without actually going to therapy. Goes great with watching movies, reading books, the Sunday scaries, coping with dystopia, and general existential dread. Side effects may include decreased heart rate, sudden smiling, lower blood pressure, and then quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, everything is okay. Even if just for a second. Use as directed by your nervous system.
Puppy Pets making the world go round.
We've been stopped so many times these past few weeks to have people pet our pups.
Do you think it's because you guys got a second one, or like would that have happened if you still only had Duxie?
I think it would happen if we still only had Duxie.
So for all you listeners out there who don't know, Becca has 2 GSPs, and as someone who used to have a beagle, I gotta ask, what's your favorite part of petting your puppy? Because when you're a beagle owner, it's like clear cut the ears.
Right? So the ears are an absolutely fantastic thing. But one of the things that I like the best about petting the dog, there's 2 things, but one of them, when you find the spot, and I'm sure beagles have this too, right? You find the spot and your dog starts to stretch that back leg and it starts to go thumping, and you can tell they are incredibly happy. And then after that, or before it, depending on what's going on, when they look back up at you, like you just did them a solid favor, and all you did was pat them on the head. That simple connection is wonderful.
It's definitely like going to therapy without the therapy, am I right?
Right?
So, I guess now that we've introduced our sponsor, the listeners should all sit back and disassociate as we turn the pages of chapters 1 through 7 of House of Earth and Blood, Part 1, The Hollow. Okay, so I gotta be honest here. The beginning was rough. Like, you know when you eat overcooked chicken? Like, it's really good because it's chicken. Or another opinion is, it's not bad, it's just chicken, right? Because chicken is chicken is chicken. But you're also like, gee whiz, this shit could be so much better. That's how I felt about the first couple chapters here.
So we've read other Sarah J. Maas books, right? And so sometimes I'm like, okay, is this filler or is this a detail I need to hold on to? And that's why, like, the first 10 pages, I was like wildly overwhelmed. I was like, who are these characters? What do I need to retain? If I forget, will she remind me gently? Like, I get we need to meet all these people, we need to understand the setting, but it kind of just felt more like we were throwing darts at a dartboard. What can I bring in? All the things on your Pinterest board vibing together more than any plot line that we were really getting.
Yeah, like, I might be showing my age a little bit, but it really felt like watching the first episode of Jersey Shore back in the day, where like you meet all these people and you get all of this I'm awesome vibe, but like shrug, you know? Anyway, all right, chapter 1. We meet Bryce Quinlan at her job at Griffin Antiquities, and like right off the bat, it's like this party girl with a mysterious past and a magical Rolodex, and she's texting and she's zoned out. She's not really working. Like, she's just at work at a shitty job, and it's boring.
It is. And I knew before we even started the book that it was about Bryce. But I'm going to be honest, as soon as Danika walked in, I was like, that's my girl. That's where we're going. She's going to be the one.
You know, I got to be honest, it was really confusing to me because like the first line of the book is there's a wolf at the door or something like that. But then, so in my mind, I'm picturing a wolf, like snout, everything. And they're describing her as having this like long blonde hair and everything. I guess that was supposed to tell us that she was a wolf shifter, but she hadn't actually shifted into being a wolf. She was in her human form. Okay, sure. You know? But Danika is like, she bursts in, she's covered in blood, and we learn that she's Bryce's best friend. I guess she's their like roommates. And she's like the baddest bitch in the city or something.
Right? And we don't really get the roommates bit for a hot bit. So, like, as she's describing Danika, I'm like, oh, this is the love interest. We're going to have a lesbian book. I'm here for the lesbian bi vibes. Womp womp. I was wrong. College roommates. Well, you never know. College roommates sometimes turn into more.
Accurate. And so, like, Danika walks into the antiquity shop like she owns the place. Just using random closets to house her stuff, and she goes downstairs and takes a shower. And then somehow we get introduced to Jessica,
who's a sorceress who happens to own the creepy gallery and also owns a fiery sprite named Lihiba,
something
who's
like that.
Maybe
sure.
addicted to smut. And Bryce is just texting away at her desk, vibing. It was an interesting setup because I usually visualize books pretty easily with the descriptions that are giving. And there was so much information packed in, but also not a broad picture that I was like, okay, here's one little sliver of the shop and a random shower that's maybe in the basement and a closet in the corner.
I've been to enough like art galleries and stuff with your sister over the years that I was really trying to use that as a basis for how to visualize this and just like replace the art with like magical artifacts or something, sort of like in Harry Potter when Hepzibah Smith has like the Hufflepuff cup or something. Mm-hmm. It's just like objects, but they're magical. And like, to your point, was still not really able to do that. The one thing that did stand out to me, though, was that in chapter 1, they started talking about how the Horn of Urd was stolen. And that caught my attention pretty hard because, like, the hunt for the horn is, like, really typical classic fantasy trope. Really reminds me of the Wheel of Time. They have a thing in there called the hunt for the horn. So I'm guessing that the Horn of Urd is going to be, like, pretty big deal.
I would imagine so. I definitely filed that under the pay attention part because she mentioned it at least 3 times. So I will give Sarah J. Maas some credit for me as a vibes reader. She gives me multiple attempts to pick up before we move on too fast.
So I guess Danika leaves the antiquity shop to go to some like alpha wolf meeting or something about a dude named Philip Briggs who apparently tried to blow up a club full of Vanir. I don't know if I'm just saying that right because it sounds like fake teeth. But they're like powerful angels. And I guess Bryce heads out with her to do some digging into this stolen horn. I'm not exactly sure what the hell Bryce is supposed to figure out about this, but
yeah, I have literally no idea. And they like go out and on the way to the meeting / to find out more without a plan, they stop at a wishing well and make a wish. And I'm like, how is this relevant to the plot line? This feels like it probably is, but I don't know yet.
Yeah, and like nothing happens. We don't know. We're not in the meeting. We're not in this horn hunt. And chapter 2 just ends. Did it introduce Danika and Bryce well enough for you?
I got lots of questions, but I think that was the intent behind it.
All right. Well, I mean, I remember their names, so I guess that's a success.
Yes, it is.
So perhaps we should just move on to chapters 3 and 4 and see what happens.
Yeah. What a trip.
So chapter 3 opens with Bryce coming home and Danika and the entire wolf pack, I think they're called the Pack of Devils, are already there, and they're like stressed out because Danika is stress eating and won't let the pack have any of the pizza. Because I guess the Philip Briggs meeting went really bad, and her mom, Sabine, was there.
Yeah. She gives. So when you're in Throne of Glass, right, and you're in the 4th book, The Heir of Fire, you're like, Maeve could be a good person. Things could be good with her. She seems like a really cold mom, and maybe things will be okay. That wasn't true, but that's the vibes Sabine is giving. Cold, maybe a mother, not part of her personality, cold as shit. Big political power, gonna do a lot. Clearly doesn't give a shit about her daughter.
For sure. I mean, SJM really loves her fairy tale tropes, like ACOTAR just started as a Beauty and the Beast type of retelling. And this really gave me like Cinderella and her evil stepmother type energy. But then we meet Connor. He is the pack beta, which sounds so awful, but really just means he's second in command. And I guess like he really likes Bryce, and she's not into it, or at least she's trying to say she's not into it, but I'm pretty sure she's into it. And she's like, I don't date wolves. But it's like, what do you mean you don't date wolves? You're living with wolves, but you're not going to date it? What? Okay. I mean, so like, why do you think she's not into this dude? I don't understand the problem.
I'm going to assume just around each other a lot in college, that kind of best friend character where you're like, I don't know. I'd rather keep you as a friend because we're good friends.
So my man got friend zoned? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I think so. I mean, it's got some elements of YA, so why not a YA characteristic? Yeah. The way she got dressed for the date, though, I loved this setup that Sarah gives us of like, Bryce spent 20 minutes. She put this great dress on that she knew was a little too slutty for where they were going to have dinner. She didn't put any effort into this, getting ready for this date that she had tonight. That was supposedly a really big deal. So you already know Bryce is not into it.
Maybe you can help a dude out here. So compared to most guys in the world, I feel like I have a pretty decent bead on women. I'm not saying I'm an expert. Nobody get that backwards. But I do have 3 older sisters, and I've always found it a lot easier to make friends with women than other men. But when I was reading this, like, help me out here. I was reading it as the dress being scandalous because it was like tight fitting and maybe a little short. So like as a man, I'd see her legs and all of her curves and everything. But like then she goes out and people treat her like she's dressed in like lingerie or something. Is that like how girls feel when they dress this way? Or I don't understand.
Yes. The portrayal of this is so accurate. So there's a couple of things in here that I think are really interesting to unpack. And it made me think about this dress I wore to a friend's wedding. It was long, went past my knees, but not like crazy long, but it was skin tight. There was an opening around one of my sides where I have a tattoo. And then there was a small cut up the side. And I had like 5 men of 40 make comments to me at the wedding. And I was like, for real? First off, there's some other questionable things going on here because it's a wedding. Why are we talking to me and my dress? Second off, I don't think it matters. You should wear what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel confident. And if that's what that is, then great. I don't think maybe we should draw the line at public nudity, but also like clearly Europe's doing just fine with some levels of public nudity, and bodies are bodies. So we really need to teach people that bodies are bodies and they're not there to ogle at. Like it is what it is.
I'm not going to lie. The the audacity of people not being able to like keep their mouths shut or just keep their comments to themselves stuns me.
It's insane. But the other part of it, because I'm like trying to put myself in Bryce's shoes, right? And so when she's out and about, and up until this point, we're getting some context to the different fantasy creatures that are in this novel. And Bryce is set up as this half fae, half human. And so I'm guessing she gets ogled at all the time based off of the fact she's got pointy ears and other human-like characteristics. And so at that point, why not make a spectacle of it, right?
Regardless, she's going out and meeting Reed, her current meh situationship. I mean, first of all, the dude's name is Reed. Like, I know Sarah J. Maas has been on record with like just flipping through baby books to find names and go, oh, that's a hot guy. So she must have done the same here to just be like, oh, that's a douchebag. But like, Ivy League, big wallet, small personality, and he shows up 45 minutes late for the date. No call, no text, no heads up.
I'm shocked she stayed with the amount of energy she brings to it. But also, like, no, like, don't leave me waiting like that. And then he's 45 minutes late and he's just on his phone the whole time. Yeah, you're going to get dumped.
I mean, Bryce bounces, and honestly, it's iconic. Like, I'm not going to lie, part of me wishes that I could be like a really pretty girl just so I could pull this kind of shit and feel amazing about myself.
And I think that's part of the fantasy story, right? Because I think a lot of people have these thoughts when they're on shitty dates and they're like, you know, I should stop my energy, stop my time right now and leave. But I think people don't because they don't want to be labeled as mean or rude or that bitch. So the fact that Bryce does it is so empowering. And I think that's part of the fantasy trope that we have.
So she leaves epically, and when she gets outside, she has no idea what she's going to do. She doesn't want to go home because she doesn't want the wolf pack to make fun of her. So she calls Fury and Juniper. And they're her, like, other than Danika, they're her best friends, and they decide that they're all going to head to the White Raven, which is like they call it a favorite bar, but it's actually like a dance club.
Yeah. And this is where we first hear of Mirthroot. And what a name. Okay, well, a little mirth, get a little friendly, a little happy, and root, yeah, it's a plant. So it's definitely just pot with a fantasy twist, and I absolutely love the literary analogy she put there.
Yes, chef's kiss. I think we got to keep tabs on this because, like, I saw it as like a druggy Chekhov's gun situation, and I'm just really curious. Like, okay, we've seen she likes drugs. When are drugs going to make another appearance and like kick everybody in the ass? And like Mirthroot, Fury shows up with another drug called Light Seeker, which all I can think of is like fantasy cocaine. And the girls head out to, quote, make their ancestors roll in their graves.
And that they do. And then chapter 5 opens with a shitstorm.
With a shitstorm. So everything changes. Like, I think this was the chapter where I was like, okay, this book might be worth trying. Bryce is super high, super tipsy, super stoned, like every drug adjective that you could have. She's out of her mind. She's stumbling home. And she like it's cobblestone streets. And the only thing I can think of here is I went to a college where the streets are like paved with bricks and some cobblestones. And my first like 2 months as a freshman, I wasn't sick. Like, I wasn't running a fever in bed or something, but it was like when you have like a head cold and like you can't really think and you're all stuffed up and whatever. So like I didn't go out with anybody because it's kind of hard to make friends when you're like wiping snot off of your face. And anyway, so I would just like sit at the bottom of one of the hills and watch all the girls try to walk home in their 3-inch heels on cobblestone after a night of drinking. And like so that's what I was picturing, but it's been like 20 years since I was there. So I have to ask you, since I know you live there now. I know you actually live there. You're not like on campus or whatever, but have you seen this as an adult?
Oh, yes. So things are a lot more family friendly in the town now, but I really enjoy going out for Halloween and people watching and just watching the amount of energy and effort people put into their Halloween costumes and watching them have a good time, right? And so, yeah, it's always interesting to see like how they're able to walk on really tall heels. I can't walk on heels hardly at all, especially post-pandemic. Like my feet are like absolutely not. So the people that put high heels on at this point, huge fan of. But the writing, when Sarah J. Maas like kind of goes through this sequence where you know Bryce is really high, she doesn't really know what's going on, she's stumbling her way home, she gets to her house, and she's like, oh my god, I have to put my code in. What is my code? What the fuck is my code? Right? And she's like trying to find it in her phone. And I could visualize this whole setup and scenario so much better than the Antiquities, just because of I don't know if it's the context or just at that point, the writing. I was hooked and I was like interested in where Bryce was going. But the level of detail when she's like, oh, and she gets the door open, she crosses the threshold, there's glass on the floor, but no big deal. She just steps around it. And you're like, that's not normal. Where are we going with this?
There's blood in the hall, but like she just thinks they're puddles or something. And like, what kind of a shit-tastic building are you living in that like puddles in the hallway are just the norm, you know?
Definitely the post-college apartment that you can barely afford.
And the door is already open, but she just shrugs it off and like pushes the door open.
Yep.
And boom, Danika and the entire pack are dead, mauled, destroyed, finito, gone.
And then at that moment, Bryce just clears out all the drugs out of her head and she finally processes what is going on and she snaps. I love, she grabbed a fucking table leg and is like, I think I hear something outside, and charges down this maybe monster that did all of this work.
And she catches up with the monster and like it's like trying to eat one of the angels alive, and we get this horrifying description. Like usually monsters in books are like described kind of generically. Like really think about like orcs and goblins, or you go to the Wheel of Time and you get Trollocs. You can kind of build an image, but it's not graphic. But like this thing, right? No eyes, just like bony shelves, translucent skin. And I'm just like, oh shit, can you see the bones? Can you see the veins? Crystal teeth. And I don't know why, but it's like dripping saliva in my mind. It's crawling on all fours. And then you get like a little description of like, its blood isn't red, its blood runs clear.
Yeah. How do you know it's blood? I mean, clearly she does, but also she's barefoot at this point because she took her shoes off before she got into the apartment complex and never put them back.
Hashtag high and drunk. So
the angel's there. The monster's snacking away on it. Bryce is beating the shit out of the monster, trying to get it off the angel. Finally, someone succeeds, and she's talking to the angel, and she's like, we need to call for help. We need to call for help. And he's like, bro, I'm like squirting out of the leg. Like, I am dying. This eating me. So she pulls the phone out of his pocket and manages to like dial whatever their version of 911 is to get people to come to her.
Which she did it one-handed. I can't operate my phone one-handed. Like,
nope. Nope. She's hanging on a tourniquet. pulling pressure. Dialing 911 with the other.
Let's back up a second and go back to like the Wolfpack being dead in her apartment. Did you catch that like Danika is dismembered in her bed and Connor is in pieces in front of the bed like he was defending Danika?
And we never got a full head count of like how many wolves were there, but I got the impression it was like 10 or so. Like it wasn't a small number, it was a large number of wolves.
Why are they in Bryce's bedroom? Like, wouldn't Danika have gone to like her bedroom? Or
well, and Danika's a warrior. Wouldn't she have led them out of the apartment complex at that point? Away from, at least to a bigger area?
I have questions. But I guess, okay, so chapter 5 ends with Bryce kind of like passing out with this angel as she waits for 911 to come. And chapter 6 drops us into the aftermath of that massacre. And it's like almost immediately clear from the first sentence. This is just going to be like the info dump of all info dump chapters ever.
And I think Sarah J. Maas does an absolutely wonderful job because she changes point of views, but she doesn't tell you. But a page and a half in, you're like, oh, okay, it's a new person that we're talking through. And hopefully I'll learn their name soon. Because I swear it was like 3 pages in and we finally learned who we were seeing the world through.
Yeah, so like we're... Sorry if I fudge some of the numbers and names here, but like we're in the 33rd Imperial Legions. That's so specific, SJM. We're in their underground interrogation room. Bryce is like in a cell, like in shock, full 1,000-yard stare, not moving, not speaking.
Right?
That good stuff.
And our new point of view character, his name is Isaiah Tiberian. He's a Vanir angel, probably part of the 33. He's not a rookie, but he knows what's going on. He has a really good sense of things. He gives me the, like, not pencil pusher vibes, but the, like, he knows the law of the land, everything that's going on. He's done the desk work. He's done the investigation work.
Yeah, and I get, like, total Rowan Whitethorn vibes from this dude, like, immediately as you learn his details. Like, he's in the governor's cabal, which is that just another word for cadre?
Gotta be.
And he has wind power, sort of like Rowan. And then like, because of the cabal cadre thing, this Micah dude, the governor, is like 100% Maeve parallels in my brain.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Isaiah's really not physically described though, so we don't know. Are we getting a full-on Rowan that's attractive, or is this the pencil-pushing dweeb?
I mean, fingers crossed, am I right? I mean, because like the sex appeal is like, it's why we're all here, right?
A little bit.
Anyways, he's not alone. We get another angel Vanir dude named Hunt Athalar, aka the Umbra Mortis, aka the Shadow of Death, aka lightning wielding enforcer angel. I've never come across lightning power in a magic system before. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's because you haven't read Fourth Wing yet.
Okay.
But Hunt gives major, like, nope vibes. Like, don't ask me. It's not my problem. I do what I want. I got power. I'm a little violent. I know my history. And he probably could be enough stories in and of himself.
Act now, ask for forgiveness later. Yeah.
Yep.
Next we meet Victoria. I don't know why, but I love the spelling with the K in Victoria. It's like very Viking.
Yes.
She's a wraith. And I get the sense that she has like data analyst stuff going down. Like she but like next level, right? So she can analyze all the magical surveillance of the entire city and track people and how they use magic and all of this stuff. But she can do it with computers that can like log into like the like CTV recordings throughout the entire city.
Yeah, she's interesting. And when we get her, we also get the description of what Sarah J. Maas envisions a wraith to be. And this is what I love about monsters and how different interpretations can get you different things. And so these wraiths get to take on whatever body form they want. And they typically take on the most beautiful humans out there. And they just use them as a physical bag to carry their goods in.
Oh, what's her face? Asterin? It gives like Asterin type vibes from Athalar.
Yeah. Yeah. And but our interesting thing about Victoria is she is stuck in this one that she's had for centuries. And that's really interesting, but kind of also all we get for her storyline. So I do think she'll be important later on.
Yeah, the whole enslavement thing is interesting because you get those kind of vibes with Hunt as well.
Mm-hmm. Because they have the tattoos.
Yeah, and I think Isaiah has the tattoo as well. So it's sort of like I'm interested. Are they enslaved by Micah, or was there some higher power that happened before Micah? Because allegedly Micah is just one of them who happens to be the governor now. Just like more questions than answers, I suppose.
And up until that point, all we really knew was that humans were typically enslaved. We didn't really hear anything about other deities being enslaved. So the fact that the angels also have them is confusing.
It's almost like they're like fallen angels.
Yeah.
There's like an interesting play on that concept.
So Victoria,
yes,
shares essentially a recording, not a recording. Well, it is a recording, but like the tape surveillance that they have from the apartment complex, right? And of course, it's a shitty apartment complex, so all they have is the auditory component of it. And at the very end, we get to listen to Danika begging for her life in a way that's like really not her character that we've been led to believe. Like literally begging for her life.
How? That's what I want to know. Like, isn't she supposed to be like, yeah, isn't she supposed to be like the heir apparent to like the city? Like nobody is stronger than her and she's just biding her time until the old timer kicks it?
Yeah.
Like what took her down?
Right? And they were supposed to drop together, right? So like both Bryce and Danika were supposed to drop into their immortality here in another year or two together for fun.
And this recording of her dying, begging for her life is like heartbreaking. And it snaps Bryce out of her shock. It's like the first thing that does. And she goes like full beast mode. She like picks up the table and like rips it in half and throws it across the room. Like it's just made of foam or something. So I'm curious here. Like, does she have some type of like cheat code that just unlocked super strength, or is this just like adrenaline? How did you read that?
Right. Is this a Fae ability that's popping up that we don't know anything about? But like, I think she throws the table and the chairs. Like multiple things go flying across the room. And then of course Sabine shows back up, being a royal asshole, and just blames Bryce for the whole entire scenario.
If she like bursts in with what Hunt and Isaiah throwing words around like slut, half-breed, whore, like we're in some like I know what you did last summer like movie or something, like she's blaming Bryce for Danika's death, even though it's been established that she wasn't there. It's
right.
So exhausting.
Right? And she clearly hates Bryce to like the nth degree, thought that Bryce was a bad friend for Danika, but the portrayal we gotta get is that actually Danika was maybe a little bit more of a partier than Bryce was, and that they were good for, well, that Bryce was good for Danika.
I really want some Sabine backstory, because one of my least favorite things in any book is like a a bad guy being bad for the sake of being bad. Like, I don't like the mustache twirling. I'm bad. I don't have reasons. I just hashtag evil. So I really hope we get some type of backstory on this chick. Just maybe she'll get a little bit of redemption for being an ass. Maybe.
But finally, Sabine leaves and whatever with that scenario, and Bryce is released because at this point they're like, well, we have nothing to really hold her on. She's clearly not giving us any information, so she needs to go chill out. So they let her go.
Yeah, because Rune Dannon wants her released. And I can't get over this dude's last name. It just reminds me of yogurt from when I was a child. But like that brings up like, who is Rune? We don't know anything. Like, he's clearly important if he's gonna just tell these super important people to back off, and they back off. And like, is he that important, or does he know something and Bryce is that important?
Right? And so we already have a little bit of context, right? Bryce is this half human, half fae, and she really considers her parents to be her mom and her mom's partner, who's a male human. And we know that she's got this fae dad who gave her citizenship, but won't claim her.
Mr. Rune Yogurt shows up, and he has like, he has a dick measuring contest with Hunt and Isaiah. I mean, like, I'm better than you. I'm going to stare you down, kind of a thing. And in so doing, we then learn that Rune is actually Bryce's cousin.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is like my twisted West Virginian family type of thing, where he's like Bryce's cousin, but like
third cousin once removed
from internal marriage. Like, I don't know. So clearly Bryce's mysterious father is more than just a disowning idiot.
Yeah.
And like, when's that going to come back?
Right. But
like, that's chapter 6.
The whole thing. And then chapter 7 is like, what, a page and a half?
Yes. It's great.
Right? I'm not gonna lie, I love an ending like that. So Bryce is just at the gates of the Bone Quarter. And it's been 6 days from the attack. This is the longest time period we've had. Because up until then, the past 2 chapters were like a day and a half, I presume. So 6 days go by. She's been in a hotel room with her mom, mourning, not eating, just doing nothing, just being a sack of potato human, because that's what you do after your best friend dies.
Yeah, and like the whole scene is so moody. Like the bone quarter. I'm trying to picture the Bone Quarter in my head. Because it's separated from the rest of Crescent City by the Istros River, and the Bone Quarter is like where people, when they die, they sail across the Istros River to be like laid to rest forever. So like, part of me, I'm trying to visualize it. Is it like a massive graveyard, or do we have like a river Styx and underworld situation from Hercules going on here?
It feels very Hercules to me. And even maybe there is still a graveyard, because it felt like there are chosen ones who get the rite of passage, and then there are not. So clearly there are people just hanging there that weren't chosen.
Like, do you get the feeling that we need some like sassy, soul-y black girls to come in and just like be the muses from Hercules and start singing a song for us? Because this is dark.
Right? It might help Bryce, too. She might get up there and dance.
Yeah. But by the way, for everybody that's listening, my wife and I love Hercules. We love Disney's Hercules.
It's a great movie.
It's a good movie. Anyways, okay. So Bryce is there because she's not allowed at Danika's official sailing, which is the thing where they sail across the river to whatever. But because Sabine is a bitch and the other wolves don't want her to be there because reasons. Anyway, so she's crossed the river on her own to say goodbye.
Yeah. Which she does say she doesn't know that she would want to go anyhow with the public affair of the whole display. But she wasn't even given the option, which sucks. But the chapter ends with this very chilling line. The creature that dwelt dwelt in the mist emerged, and even the river at her back trembled. Bryce opened her eyes and slowly lifted her gaze.
Goosebumps, literal goosebumps. Like, I mean, one, I think this is the best line of the first 7 chapters. Not necessarily like it's the best written from a rhetorical or poetry or anything type of standpoint, but like it's the first thing that made me shiver.
I almost cheated and kept reading. I was like, I'm a slow reader. I'm going to need a little extra time to catch up. And then I was like, no, Matt and I said we would read together. So I'll record this before I read on.
Yeah, me too. What do you get out of this? Like, is this sort of like the Robert Johnson crossroad story where he's standing there ready to, like, he trades his soul to the devil for like mastery over the guitar and the blues? Like, is Bryce going to be doing something like that, or is she going to make a deal with Athalar like Megara from Hercules? Man, that reference is coming up a lot. Or
is she out for revenge? And that's, this is a revenge story, and that's it. Or are we just going to live with the sadness of this friend and go on this hunt for the horn, and it be still just a mystery, but not a murder mystery no more?
That brings us to the end of chapter 7 and the end of part 1 of House of Earth and Blood.
Do we make predictions at this point?
I think we should.
I'm thinking it'll be a revenge story, and Bryce is going to get back at the monster that took Danika from her. But I think she's also going to go further than that and go for more people like Sabine, her Fae father, and just take people down with her.
But like, I don't disagree. The only hesitancy I have is she's half human, half Fae, which means she's not one or the other. And she, by all accounts that we've read so far, has 0 abilities. Like, she has power, but it's so near microscopic that it doesn't like measure on the IQ test.
Yeah.
So like, Bryce needs to level up.
Yeah. Maybe that's where the horn comes in.
Okay. All right. So when we turn the page and we start chapter 8, is it like the next day, or is some amount of time going to have passed?
Next day.
Next day? Okay, I'll take that bet. I think it's years later.
Oh.
And we're going to get a whole bunch of retrospect.
Okay.
Then again, when you read Throne of Glass, and very specifically Throne of Glass, not as much in ACOTAR, you get like the training montage scenes in both of them. But in ACOTAR, it really feels like Feyre trains with Cassian and Asriel and Rhys over like the course of a month, and she's just like the badass bitch.
Because that's definitely how bodies are built.
Yeah, exactly. Cassian should definitely go into business for himself and just be like, bodies built by Cassian.
I'd sign up for that.
I mean, I might sign up for that. Bring on the spandex, but like in Throne of Glass, Selena also, like, she trained for years to be this amazing assassin, and then when she starts becoming something more than that, it's like she already has this huge base to build on, and she trains with Rowan and Wendlin for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Is that Heir of Fire or Queen of Shadows? I think it's Queen of Shadows.
No, I think it's Heir of Fire.
Heir of Fire. So that's 3 months. She's training with him for 3 months, but she already has this huge base. So clearly, I guess what I'm trying to say is clearly SJM loves the training montage scenes. So maybe my prediction of years in the future is just fraught with inaccuracy because SJM wants to write some training montage scenes.
Right? Like even Feyre goes through them. Although her starting is way different, and she starts off illiterate. So this is somewhere in between Feyre and Selena as far as character base builds go for SJM.
Okay, so do you think Bryce goes full Fae eventually?
No.
Is she no?
I don't think so. I think she hates her Fae dad enough that she rejects that part of herself.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what powers she develops. Because from these first 7 chapters, all we really learn is that she has an impeccable system for filtering out drugs.
Yeah, she's good
and
to go.
She is really fucking fast and strong like she wants to be.
Yeah.
But like no wind, no lightning, no...
Presumably some street
fire.
Smarts, maybe some book smarts because she finished college. But we don't even know in what.
I wonder if she's going to parallel Selena and have like firepower, or if she's going to parallel Feyre and be like a jack of all trades, like the apex of all magics. I wonder if Sarah J. Maas goes like that circular, because she loves tying stories up in a nice bow and circle.
She does. Well, maybe she becomes a shifter, and she can shift into a wolf like her friend. I'm feeling some soul-selling vibes in the Bone Quarter might be occurring in our next chapter.
I could see that. Something that came up when when you were talking about a revenge arc. Something that like literally just clicked for me. So Bryce is described as having like wine red hair, right? And if you go back into Throne of Glass, Ansel of Briarcliff has wine red hair, and she has a hardcore revenge narrative over in like the wastes.
Ooh, I think you might be onto something. That might be where our worlds start to tie together.
That could be very interesting. I guess, okay, so what's the overall takeaway here? What's the vibe check now that we're done with part 1?
The vibes are good. I'm going to have to, I had some few people reach out on Instagram that were like, oh, you're starting. Should I start? And I'm going to have to respond with, yeah. A lot of people said it's not a great book, but I've got good vibes. I'm ready to get going.
I've never read a modern urban fantasy before. Everything that I've read is quasi-couched in like a medieval type of feel. Like they're never medieval because they have fantasy like magic systems that allow their societies to thrive. But like, so even when you go to like Valeris and Akatar, it's like this really modern day, like New York City type of thing. But somehow they all live and are described with the way they dress and act and stuff as it having castles and courts, and it's still somehow very medieval. So
and never technology like we know, never a phone.
Yes, the cell phone thing. But I'm with you. I'm here for it. I think I'm here for it. I don't know if it's going to pay off, but the setup was pretty good. I like how we've got politics, we've got religion, angels, demons, monsters, fae, wolves, shifters,
wraiths.
Like wraiths. Yes, wraiths. Wraiths are always like the boogeyman under the bed. They're never like main character energy. So like that's pretty damn cool.
Right?
So I think I'm here for it. I think I'm locked in, and I think I'm really interested to go read chapter 8.
Yes. Literally going to start it right after we get off this.
So that is the first 7 chapters of House of Earth and Blood.
All right. That's going to do it for us for this week.
What did all of you readers and adventurers think? Let us know. You can email us at bookclubbybecca@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at Becca's Book Club Adventure, or you could even send us a message on YouTube.
Also, feel free to throw us a rating or a review or a comment on whichever platform you're using. Send us a comment or a review, and we might just feature you on our next episode. Speaking of which,
next week on Becca's Book Club Adventure, we'll be diving into Part 2, The Trench. We're slated for the first half of Part 2, but, I mean, chapters 9 through 20 is pretty ambitious, so we'll see how that shakes out.
And if any of the listeners know a better reading order or chunking method, send us a message and let us know.
For sure. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention today's sponsor one last time, Puppy Pets. So, until next time, keep petting those puppies and reading those books.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.